Hey everyone, this is Timothy Luke. I'm going to talk about the sequence debugger that we've added in as part of GSE 1.39 and on. I've had a few people ask what's going on in my macro and why is it locking up on this particular spot, or a whole bunch of other questions. So the sequence debugger is there purely and solely so you can actually get an idea of when you press a button, what it's doing, why it's doing it, how it matters, and what works. So the first place where I start looking at this is actually not in game. The first place I start is here. I look at icy veins. There's a few of these places, but in order to get the most out of your macro and the most out of your character class, you need to know what it is you're trying to achieve. Alright, so these guys, icy veins, they've got an article here on, this is the Retribution Paladin one. It talks about single target rotation. It talks about opening rotation, it talks about multi-target rotation, it talks about cooldown usage and all that kind of stuff. Before you turn around and go, oh, I've got what do you want your macro to do? If you know that question, then the stuff I'm about to show you will help. If you don't have an idea about what your macro should be doing or how it works or that kind of stuff, none of the stuff I'm going to show you about getting the most out of your macro, none of it's going to make any sense. This is where you need to start. You need to start somewhere where you know stuff. So once you know stuff, come back into WoW, and this new function that we've added in, the sequence debugger, it literally goes, I walk up to a target dummy, I enable it, and as I press my keys, it starts filling in. So literally a case of, if I bring my macro up, so I'm using 143. This is my macro. So my pre-macro is target enemy, Avenging Wrath, Shield of Vengeance. So pop my wings, pop my other bubble, and then this is where I go through. So this is a priority macro. So first thing, step 1. So I'm using the DB rep macro. Step 1, just to cast Vengeance. It's not able to cast. There's no resources available. The GCD is free, and I'm not actively casting anything else. So then my refresh rate is at 100 milliseconds, so 0.1 of a second later. DB ret 2, just to cast Templar's Verdict, not able to cast, resources not available, GCD is free, and I'm not actively casting anything else. So this is basically telling me line by line by line what's occurring. It's not till we get down here to Blade of Justice that it goes, yep, I'm able to cast, I've got the resources available, the GCD is free, and I'm not casting anything else. Boom. So that line there, that's DB ret 3, that's the first thing that happened. And if I go back to my combat log, and I scroll through everything else, it'll turn around and actually tell me, no, I've scrolled past it, but my it tells me Blade of Wrath, I've got Blade of Justice. That was the first thing that actually went off and did stuff. This will go through every single bit, and it'll start reporting on stuff. The first one of these lines that everything is green, that's the line that actually triggered, right? You'll notice down here that I've got Blade of Justice, Judgment, and Crusader Strike. There's a delay between when you press a key and the spell starts to when WoW realizes that it's actually happened. So when you get a block of these in the middle, this one here, the DB3 Blade of Justice one, that one worked. The two afterwards didn't, and they should come up red, and once I get the timing and the bits sorted out, that'll all come back into play. Okay, so I've got my GS static priority, I've got it running, I can tell it's doing priority because 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I edit the sequence and I change that to sequential and go save, saved as version 2, as soon as I go back to my target dummy, this should start going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom, and it's just cycling through. So I can tell straight off that my macro is behaving the way it's supposed to be. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now with the information from this, I can actually start figuring out what's going on. So I've got my output of data. I've got a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of mess. What I can do with this now is, if I clear this, I can actually spend some time with the target dummy and capture some information. So if I just change this back, go back to my target dummy, and run this for a bit. And I'm just running it for a bit so I get some data. Something to notice, if you run this for a long period of time with the sequence debugger open, it will slow your machine down because it'll chew up a lot of resources. So you want to run that for a period of time like that. That's enough. Cool. We can take this information here and we can copy and paste it out of WoW into a tool like Microsoft Excel. So Excel, paste, fantastic, that didn't work. Let's try that again. So I've got my data. It hasn't come across as cleanly as I would have liked. It's come across as a bit, you know, it's all whatever else. But under the data tab, there's a function in Excel that's called text to columns. So this one here, text to columns. If I go this, it'll go, you do delimited because we want it on the commas. We change it from tab to comma, and you notice it starts splitting this stuff up into columns of what's going on. Next, finish. So if I start dragging these out, alright, so I've got Templar's Verdict happened. This one's the same as the last one, so it didn't actually activate this. So I can start going through this data and looking at what actually happened. So, and I can do this with whatever tool I want to use. So I can turn around and take the information from this, and I can actually start manipulating and editing and tweaking my macro and going, well, it's getting stuck on this spell, or it's not doing enough stuff, or it should be doing this and it's not, or it should be manipulating the data. This, this ability should be going off, or oh, that ability is going off while I'm still in a cooldown, and I need it to be a little bit longer so I can add some extra spells or some other abilities in, or some other bits to time it out. So the next part of this of actually mapping this information to the stuff from your icy veins, this is stuff that you actually have to do individually, and it's going to be different. There's no hard and fast rule on this. This is going to be different for you and your class and your gear. And it's not going to be like a one-size-fits-all that if you get this particular setting exactly the right way, it's going to work for everyone. It's going to work for you, and it's about tweaking this for you. This is literally for those guys that if you want to min-max and you want to see exactly what your macro is doing or why it's doing it, this is what this stuff's about. Now, getting into it, I've got the libDataBroker thing on my action bar. If I come back to show you the WoW window, this will work better. So down here at the bottom corner, I've got a libDataBroker feed in Elv. You can add this to a libDataBroker feed with whatever you've got. The command line option is, if I close that, the command line option is GSSE debug. And it's back here. It remembers what you've got in it. You've got a clear button, you've got a pause, you've got a renew, you've got other options and bits and pieces. You can actually use this to get the normal debug output if you're trying to figure out if there's a bug with the mod and all that other stuff, but that's a different problem for a different day. The places to go to next is that literally it's a case of you take that information, you edit your sequence, you might move some stuff around, you might change your order, all that kind of stuff. Actually, I want Crusader Strike last. And that's it. It's just literally a case of, okay, I've now got sequence 4, I've got version 4, I go back to a target dummy, I do some more checks, I do some more tweaks. I use some other tools like Recount to watch my DPS. I look at this other tool, SimCraft. I don't know too much about SimCraft. I know that it exists. I don't know much about using it or migrating data into it. Its website is here. Simulationcraft.org. If you're part of the WoW Lazy Macros community and you look for Amber Green knows a bunch of stuff about SimCraft. But my thought and my hope and starting to get this stuff in an output of this kind of stuff is that you might be able to take this stuff with some massaging and fit it into SimCraft and actually see what your macro is really doing and if it's behaving the way you're supposed to be doing and all this other stuff. All of this realm of stuff is stuff that it's very hard to, it's very time consuming, it's very hard to turn around and show you. It would be the most boring video of me showing you this for an hour and a half of me going, I'll move that. And then an hour later going, no, it wasn't the right way. So I'll save you some of that tedium. But the tools are there to be able to turn around and start doing this stuff. Now, you may be looking at this going, I just want a macro, I'm quite happy, all I want to do is LFR, I just want my macro to just punch buttons and I go get loot. Fantastic, great. These aren't the tools that you're after. Just grab a macro off the forum, put it in, and yeah. But if you grabbed a macro from somewhere and it's supposed to be doing a lot better than what you're seeing, you're going to have to tweak it and change it, and this is where this stuff comes in. But anyway, this is the new stuff in GSE 1.4. Generally, if you're having trouble or problems or questions, find me on Discord or on the WoW Lazy Macros forum. But good luck, have fun, and I hope you manage to kill lots and lots of stuff.